You've got big projects to tackle, but your day gets swallowed up by repetitive tasks and constant inquiries. It's hard to make progress when you're stuck putting out fires. That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. Acting like an extra set of hands, you get your time back for the high-impact projects. Ready to reclaim your time? Visit element451.com/AI team to learn more.
Welcome to AI for You, the go-to podcast for higher ed professionals looking to integrate AI into their daily work. I'm your host, Brian Piper, the Director of Content Strategy and Assessment at the University of Rochester. Join me every other Thursday for practical uses of AI within higher education communications, marketing, and student engagement. We'll focus on ways to quickly integrate AI into your teams to increase your efficiency and effectiveness and help you optimize your workflows and processes. I'll interview experts and feature relevant use cases with the goal that every episode gives you at least one thing you can take away and start leveraging in your job today. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome to AI for You. Today's use case is about writing copy in your institutional brand voice. There are tools like Jasper or Writer that provide great ways to train the specific model on your content, brand, and your voice. Now, you can also do this using a custom GPT inside of ChatGPT. The prompt example in the show notes can be used as a standalone prompt, but also works as a great way to begin to inform your tool of choice on how to speak in your brand voice. Obviously, the more examples you can give it, the more URLs you can point it to, the more context you can provide for it, the better outcome you're going to get. Today's guest is John Munsell. John is the CEO of Bazooka, and he is also an adjunct instructor of AI at Louisiana State University. Let's jump right into the conversation. Well, thank you so much for coming on my show, John.
Brian, hey, it's been a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you. I love what you're passionate about. I'm passionate about it too. So I just hope we can serve your audience well today.
I'm sure we will. I've listened to you talk quite a bit about what you're doing and how they are using AI at LSU. So I'd just like you to start off by sharing some of that with the audience, especially around some of the ways you're leveraging prompts within the institution and sharing those.
It's been an interesting story. So I've had an agency. I started off as a software company 25 years ago, gradually grew over time into a digital marketing agency. And I sold that off about 2.5 years ago to really start focusing on helping businesses learn how to use AI at scale. And the provost of LSU heard what I was doing and came over. We were about an hour away. We live in Lafayette. He came over to my office to see, what we had going on. And so I started showing him. He's like, wow, this is next level stuff. And he's actually teaching AI. He's got a guy who used to have a top secret clearance working on nuclear submarines, I believe. And he's his top AI guy. And they were both like, wow, this makes so much sense, but I've never seen it before. Would you want to teach our honors students next year or next semester? I was like, I don't know that could work for me, but I would love to work with LSU to upscale the workforce. And so we had a couple other meetings, and then he's like, okay, I want this to be a mandatory part of our undergrad program, and I want you to teach the LSU professors how to do this. We just finished our first cohort of 10 LSU professors, and it was a blast. And here's the other interesting thing about the provost coming to my office. I think what was 6 months later, I had been in this office for 21 years, and they sold the building and gave me 3 months to move out. So here I am in a bedroom at my house now, trying to find new office space. So
So, from the provost perspective, when they were looking at, educating their faculty, and I'm guessing that this is eventually going to roll out to staff, all the administrative people. I mean, I'm really focused on the Marcom, the admissions side of the house,
mhm.
figuring out how we're going to integrate these technologies into our workflows. What is it about the prompt structure that they're using at LSU that is different than what you've seen in other places?
So, well, I mean, keep in mind, they have been teaching prompt engineering for a couple of years, right? And in fact, they're teaching it at a pretty high level. Um, what I teach is what I call scalable prompt engineering. So, in other words, I'm trying to teach businesses how to prompt at scale, meaning somebody in, like, if you got how many people in your Marcom department? Like 5, 10, I don't know.
We've got about 30 in our team, but we're also comms and PR
Gotcha.
and crisis comms. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so imagine if all 30 people they're all self-taught, they're all trying to do the same thing, and you have overlapping procedures. That's inefficient. But if you have a common understanding of how to structure a prompt, you have a library where people can go and access these prompts, but not just prompts, but what I would call prompt containers or prompt fragments or prompt stacks. There's a bunch of little words for it. We teach people how to create prompts where there are literally hot swappable variables or stacks of information where I could swap it out, plug in something else, and now that prompt executes something completely different. And now, but everybody in the organization understands how it works. So if you have turnover, somebody else can come in and they'll immediately understand what the prompt does. If you've got these giant paragraph prompts that are all over the board, somebody's got to go in there and try to dissect it and try to go, okay, how do I, why is it not giving me the response I need? Why is it writing? Like we had one of our gals came to one of our mastermind sessions, and she's like, okay, John, I need your help with our chat bot. I'm like, sure. What's the problem? She goes, it won't stop talking like a pirate. And I'm like a legitimate pirate? And she's like, yeah, it goes, ahoy, matey, arr, and all this other junk. I'm like, oh my God, let me look at the prompt. I looked at the prompt and she had switched back to a paragraph, what we call a word vomit prompt, and it just had prompt conflict. So if you don't structure it right, you have what we call prompt conflict. And so she had given it some instructions of what role it was playing. Then she gave it some instructions on how she wanted it to talk. And then she gave it some more instructions on what level of humor to use. And then she said, she used the phrase, I think, kind of like a funny uncle or something like that. Okay. Well, that phrase conflicted with a whole lot of other stuff, and the AI is thinking, funny uncle, I must be talking to a child, and so children thinks pirates are funny, apparently to AI. I don't know. So it literally was talking like a pirate. So I had to go back to her and tell her how to calibrate the voice, how to separate the style of the voice from the role of the AI and all that stuff, and then literally inside of 30 seconds it worked, but it becomes highly scalable at that point. Now, you're using it in Marcoms and you're using it in other aspects of marketing, but imagine like one of our students is a law professor, all right? One of them does a whole lot of, actually, two of them do a whole lot of grant research and writing, right? The gal who does all the legal stuff, she also does consulting for other legal professors in universities across the United States. And she was having some issues. And then when she went through the course, and she'd been through training before, right? She had been through prompt engineering training before. And she's like, I know there's a better way. And then when she saw our structure, she's like, oh, that's how you do it. It was revelatory for her. So now all of a sudden she's able to do things a lot faster. And she gets better output from the starting point, which is really cool. That's what, in fact, that's what the guy who does the grant writing, he literally came on this morning, and I was like, man, your timing is awesome because I'm getting ready to talk to Brian Piper this afternoon, and he says, look, I just got to tell you, now he finished his we run him through a capstone project, so we teach them how to do this, and at the end they have to present a capstone project, and that project has to be, we have another layer that we could go into where we teach them how to create an agent. But here we're just teaching them how to create a custom GPT or Claude project. So he created a custom GPT to help him speed up writing grant applications, right? And so he finished that, I want to say 3 weeks ago. And so he came on the call today and he says, I just got to tell you what I've done. And he starts showing me all these new things that he's done in the grant writing thing. And he's like, the output is so much better than it used to be. The speed at which I get it done is so much better. I can now teach other people on our team how to do this. And he says, look what I got this morning. I'm like, what? He said, I just got to show you this email. He had sent in a grant application to, I don't know, some authority. They emailed him back complimenting him on his application, saying, you're so eloquent in your writing. And he's sitting there checking. Now, English is not his first language. Okay. I think he's from Argentina or something like that. So he has a very thick Spanish accent, and his prompts were even somewhat broken English. So for her to compliment him on his writing, I thought was just hilarious. But anyway, that's what we teach. So there's so many applications across academia. It's not just marketing. It can simplify your job in just about every aspect. We had people that were using it to write rubrics, people that were using it to help them finesse the curriculum, people that were using it like this gal to I think the legal gal's deal was she wanted to give the students access to something because her curriculum's like, I don't know, 100 pages long. So she just wanted them to go to a chatbot and ask questions about that so that they were second line of defense, not first line of defense. And she said it reduced her support calls by like 90%, you know.
So this prompt library that you have, what is the format for that? Like, how is it searchable, or is it just like a
Yeah,
big?
great question. There are a million tools that you could probably use out there. We just teach people how to do it in Notion because you can get a free version of Notion. Notion, you can pull in a database and you can create your own fields. It's very, very simple. So as part of our training, we actually deliver them a Notion database with, I don't know, a bunch of prompts that are covered in the course. So they know how to categorize them. They know how to create prompt chains inside the database. They know how to share it with other people. And it's really easy to search and find something that you need. But I know there are plenty of other tools. If you're really advanced, you could probably build a SQL database, but homie, don't play that. That's too complicated for me.
You mentioned prompt chains. You also mentioned agents. So I'm guessing that there are ways for users of these prompts to either string these together or to create workflow solutions using some sort of agent tools. Or is that kind of
Yeah.
like next steps? Or
Yeah, so what we're doing with LSU, just to familiarize you and your audience, is we've created a program that we call the AI Skills Builder, and it's designed for employers that want to upskill their workforce, and that employer can be a university, it can be a high school, it could be a large business, it could be a small business. The issue, or let's say the problem that we're trying to solve, is this fragmented knowledge, and we're trying to teach everybody to operate from the same common level of understanding and language. So we take them through three foundational steps, and the first is about security, ethics, and safety using AI. The second is what we call the AI strategy canvas, which is a framework for developing AI strategy, developing AI initiatives, and then writing scalable prompts. Okay. And the third layer is scalable prompt engineering. So you little by little layer on your knowledge, and now you know the ingredients through the AI strategy canvas. You know the ingredients of a scalable prompt. And then we teach you how to actually create those scalable prompts. And then From there, you go into skills tracks based on your discipline. So you could go into a marketing skills track, an HR skills track, a legal skills track, and teaching and instruction skills track. We have 10 skills tracks, right? And all the way down at the bottom. So each one it has practical AI applications where we teach you how to build layer by layer these prompt stacks and prompt chains. And then the final one is what we call AI Automation 1, which is building a custom GPT. We have AI automations 2, 3, 4, and 5, where we teach you how to build automated workflows, but that's a beast, right?
Right.
We just want you to understand the language, and that's the primary purpose, is to where if everybody communicates the same way, and from the start they know what you need to be discussing or thinking about in terms of an AI initiative, now everything else falls into place, right? And so that's the process. Um, but when you're getting to the point where you're building that first capstone project, the we're using, like I said, either custom GPTs, Gems and Geminis, or Claude projects. I prefer Claude and ChatGPT. In those, you have the ability to upload foundational knowledge, right? Documents, right? Um, and you also have the ability to provide system instructions, right? But then once you have all that data in there and the system knows what it's supposed to do, you have your own user instructions that you have to push into it, right? So what we try to do is lean as much as we can on the system so that the user doesn't have to have a whole lot of back and forth. Okay. But there's sometimes, like, if you're writing a blog post, let's say, we have 9 different blog post prompts because they're different blog posts you can write: listicles, newsjack posts, etc. The newsjack post is a series of 7 prompts, to where we're going out to different things to pull information in. And in the stack itself, we want to know what your thoughts are. So we might say, okay, here's a news article that we just found. But then we're going to tell AI to go out and find other news articles that are similar so that we can confirm that this is legit news. And so we'll run that prompt in Perplexity, right? And it'll come back with a bunch of stuff. And then we can take that information and manually pop it into Claude or Chat GPT. But we want to inject our own thoughts into that. That would be what we would call a prompt container or a prompt stack. And it might say, look, here's our style. Here's our target persona who's going to read this. And we have a big profile on the persona. And here's the thoughts that we want to inject into this. Now we give it the instructions. Now we tell the GPT or Claude or whatever, here's what I want you to write. And I want you to write it step by step so that we can confirm. And the first thing I want you to do is create an outline. So you can see how it starts to go into a system where we might have one really long, thought out, structured, stackable prompt, but then we have to tell it to do something else. Sometimes we're lucky enough to where we can tell it to do that in one shot, where we say, look, I want you to go step by step. Step 1, I want you to do this. Step 2, I want you to do that. Step 3, I want you to do this. In between each step, I want you to confirm that I like what you're doing, and then we move on. Make sense? But
Yeah,
once you do that, everybody in the organization now goes, I'm just going to pull the newsjack post out. I saw this new article, bam. And it writes amazing stuff first try. And then you just have very little editing from there.
you're basically just layering prompts in order, basically, to build a larger and larger context for the LLM to be able to give you a better final output.
Yeah. And if everybody knows what that sequence is and it's already written for them, it saves a whole lot of time. But if you have to do it from scratch every time you want to write a blog post because you don't really have a storage system or you don't have a methodology, that's inefficient. So, I would rather everybody do the same thing. And, if it's you writing it, you might have a different style than somebody else in your office, right? So, and if you're attributing the authorship to you, you want people to know, yeah, it is in fact me and my style, right?
Right.
And so that becomes a style stack inside the prompt, so the AI knows, okay, this is Brian's writing style. This is his level of humor. This is his favorite structured sentence length. This is, you know, these are the words he doesn't want us to use, like delve and skyrocket and junk like that. Right?
Hi there, it's Brian Piper. Element 451 is hosting the AI Engage Summit on October 29th and 30th. This free virtual event features many of your favorite Enrollify creators and will explore AI's impact on student engagement, enrollment marketing, and institutional success. Learn how to tap into the power of AI to turn data into actionable insights, utilize predictive analytics, and monitor and support student performance. Plus, hear directly from current students on how AI is influencing their engagement and campus life. Don't miss my session using content, AI, and data to engage with students on October 30th from 3 to 4. The AI Engage Summit is your guide to understanding and applying AI at your school. Registration is free. Visit element451.com to save your spot. Now back to the show. So, when you were working with LSU, it's nice that you had a provost who was understood the technology and was enthusiastic about integrating it. What about institutions where leadership might not feel so understanding or welcoming of the technology? What kind of recommendations do you have either for leaders in those institutions or for enthusiasts within the institutions that kind of recognize the capacity and the growth of AI and how it's not going away? How do you help guide them into adoption and into kind of a good usage principles?
Yeah, great question. I think if I'm going to paraphrase the prophetic words of Mr. Wonderful, I would say everything comes down to money, right? That's the common language. So if I had a president or a provost that was like, oh, he or she is wringing their hands over the use of AI, I would say, look, you can't get away from the newspaper without reading something that says tuitions are getting ready to fall through the floor, and there's going to be a massive revenue problem at higher education. So if there's a massive revenue problem, if you're going to be thinking like a business, you have to be thinking, okay, I have to adjust with expenses. I have to do more with less. So the great equalizer is AI. I could do a whole lot more with less. Like one of the professors that came to our course, as she was about halfway through, she was like, "You just did in 20 minutes what takes me 2 weeks to do," and she'd been using AI for a year, you know. And I was like, "Yeah, you just need to know, how to do it." And so when you think about what that does, if you can take a 2 week process and compress it to, let's say, 2 days, or a 2 day process and compress it to 2 hours, or a 2 hour process and compress it to 2 minutes, and these are not pie in the sky numbers, these are legit numbers, right? If I can do that, I've just compressed time. Now, there's a lot you can do with the compressed time. So I could either work less or I could do more, and serve more, right? It just depends on what the objective of the university is. If the objective of the university is to serve the students or serve research, you have to be able to do more with less. That message should resonate with leadership. If it doesn't, time to get new leadership, right? you know?
Yeah,
But that's
absolutely.
it. I know there's this big controversy over what do you do with students? Do you let students use it or not? To me, it's kind of like way back in the day. Do you let students use calculator to teach them how to do math? Well, dude, when they leave school, they're going to be expected to know how to use a calculator. period. My first job out of college was the year IBM came out with the first PC. And they slapped it on my desk and said, learn how to use this and then teach us, So I'm like, cool. It was great fun. But what I was able to do with a program called Lotus 123 about a year later, we could analyze financial statements. I was working for a bank at the time. We could analyze financial statements and make lending decisions in about an hour because it would take us that long to enter in all the information into the cells and all that stuff. Prior to that, somebody had to create all these ledgers and crunch all this stuff and create the ratios and do all that all manually, look them up on these tables and all that junk. And it literally would take days on end. I wasn't taught that in school, but I was taught how to add and subtract. Now, flash forward, if a school doesn't teach a kid how to use Excel, then that student can't enter the workforce, right? I, as an employer, can't afford to hire that student. I need to get somebody that knows how to use Excel. I, as an employer right now, I would love to hire somebody that knows how to use AI. I'll have to upskill them to know how to use it my way. But the one thing I can't do is I can't afford to train somebody from zero, which is the interesting thing about the axiom that you've heard that you won't be replaced by AI, you'll be replaced by somebody that knows AI. But the flip side of that is, as an employer, it takes about a year and a half to get an employee to where that employee knows your culture, knows your processes, and is actually productive at a level where they're earning more than they cost. I mean, that's a legitimate number. You could ask just about any business person. It takes that long to get one employee fully acclimated and onboarded um, to where they're literally profitable and you don't have to babysit anymore. Now you want them to stay because you've got that time invested. So you don't want turnover at 16 months, right? So now imagine you have a bunch of people on your team that have been with you for 3, 5, 6 years. Do you really want to go replace them with somebody that knows AI? Or do you want to put them in a position where in 3 weeks they can learn how to use AI at a level makes them a peak performer? So my feeling is I don't know that you'll be replaced by somebody that knows AI unless you refuse to be trained.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And, I think as higher ed institutions, we're doing our students a disservice if we're not integrating AI into our classrooms. And the same for our
Yeah.
staff and our faculty. I mean, if you're looking at professional development or looking at upskilling within your job, I see no better technology to start
Yeah.
educating yourself on than AI.
Well, and this thing is moving so fast. I mean, Brian, you were around when the dot-com era came, right? So there's this massive craze, massive bubble, then it burst. Okay, so we're in a bubble right now. But the bubble isn't whether the technologies will survive. The bubble is about which of the people building all these applications will survive, right? Because everybody's like, oh, I got an application that does this, and I got one that does this. And I don't want to invest a whole lot of time in some new AI automation tool only to find out they go under. And so I spend a ton of time putting something in there. But the technology is moving way faster than the web did, way faster than computers did, way faster than anything. So if you sit on it, you are in danger of extinction. And that's not hyperbole. That's not, you know, I'm telling you, I know that just in the business sector, the stuff that the people that we're teaching to do, they're moving so fast and they're able to compress time so much that they're literally leapfrogging the competitors. And if they've got a competitor that's going, I'm just going to wait, or I'm nervous, I'm not worried about it, 3, 6 months from now, they're going to have a hard time catching up. 12 months from now, it's going to be lights out. So as a university, you really need to understand this is not just coming, it's here. and it's rolling over people. I mean, look at ChatGPT 401 preview. It's a beast, and apparently it's a fifth of what it's supposed to be in November. I mean, the
Yeah.
logic behind that thing is crazy. It'll solve a freaking crossword puzzle. It may take a little time, but it'll solve it. My
Yeah.
wife's not happy about that. She loves the crossword puzzle, but so look,
So, so does mine.
I'm not gonna cheat on it.
So, talking a little bit about what the next generation of models. I mean, we've seen so many models just within the last month get updated, and we know that a lot of those are previews of, shades of what we're going to see within the next few months.
Yeah.
Where do you think this technology is going, and especially in a way that will impact higher education, impact marketing, admissions, enrollment? What are your predictions in that?
Um, so I know you were there when they said 95% of a marketer's job is going to get eaten up by AI, So yeah, is it terrifying? Yeah, for sure. It's so hard to really say because you have to know how to use the machine in order to survive. The big question I have is economically, when you're able to compress time that much, you like I said earlier, you have to be able to, as a business, you have to be able to do something with the excess time. You either try to sell more because now you have the ability to sell more. But if everybody is able to compress time, the market isn't necessarily going to grow. And so that means you might have a smaller market, which means you have to lay off people, which means you'll have an even smaller economy. And that's why they're talking about a universal basic income and all this other fun stuff. I just don't know. I know they were terrified when the PCs came out that it was going to just wipe out humanity. I don't know. This is kind of really, you know, interesting because you got robots and everything else. But so I really don't know. All I know is that in the short run, you better learn how to run the machine really, really well. And I'm sure there will be other jobs that open up. Um, but I just don't know. I'm not Warren Buffett, so I can't really tell you where I think the economy is going to go after all this stuff. But I think that the more you know about AI and the more you're able to use it, the more you become somewhat indispensable. What I will tell you about 401 that I think is a great opportunity for higher ed to use in the classroom is when I don't know how well you've played around with it or not, but when you ask it some questions and you expand that little carrot
Mm.
thing and it explains to you the logic that it went through to do its own reasoning, that alone is a class. I mean, when I was looking at all the decisions that it went through and the logic from one step to another, I was like, that's pretty cool. Because we used to have to write a prompt that would do that,
Right.
right? And now it's doing it on its own. And but when you watch the logic and you see how it does it, it's sometimes you think, I don't know that I would have taken that step. Maybe I should write a prompt to make it dodge that step. And on the other end, you're thinking, I don't know that it's worth my time because this thing did it in 20 seconds. It'll take me
Yeah.
4 minutes to write a prompt to see if I'm smarter than the machine, but I don't know.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the different, economic issues we're going to face, some of the different social issues I'm sure we're going to face, with AI companions and people developing social skills. We're certainly going to, face a lot of issues, a lot of different ethical issues around ways we can use this technology. And, if only there was some sort of I don't know, institution or market or vertical that really focused on learning things and thought leadership and teaching people things. It seems like higher ed kind of has the right position to be able to help think about all these problems. And, they talk about the environmental issues that are going to come up with this. We've already
Hmm.
seen, a lot of these big players push off their carbon neutral uh, plans that they had put in place. They're like, well, what we're going to do is we're going to push those aside until we get AGI, and then AGI is going to help us solve our environmental issues. So I think higher ed is uniquely positioned to be a key element in helping figure out some of these issues. But I think we're going to have to change a lot in, the kind of the traditional way that we have been purveyors of knowledge transfer, and some of the different structures that we have in place around how we share and distribute our information. So it's going to be very interesting next few years.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, to me, um, the social aspects of this are really far-reaching. The social benefits and consequences to social media are massive, and we're just starting to chalk it all up. Right, the suicide rates in the teens are through the roof. There's so much good that happened with it, and there's so much bad. The people argue, should the government get involved, and that also is both logical and terrifying, right?
Yeah.
Because it's terrifying that AI could potentially be smarter than us and start making decisions that we don't even know how it's making decision, and it could it, going way down the sci-fi trail, could it ultimately start to see us as the enemy and start to become deceitful? Who knows, right? This quest for AGI, the idea of having government oversight over that seems logical at first, until you realize, oh, that would mean more power in the hands of government to essentially create an indoctrination machine. And that's terrifying, right?
Hmm.
So I think we're kind of in this weird pickle. And then the question is, how can higher ed help? And to me, it's almost like I told my kids, I think every person growing up should wait tables, work retail, and then uh, try to get a real job. Because when you take those other two jobs, you learn all about people, you learn how to serve people, and you learn how not to be served. In higher education, it's usually more beneficial if you've had some experience in the real world. It's kind of like a politician, right? I'm not a big fan of politicians who have only been politicians, because they've never really learned what it's like to be an employee, to be an employer, to be a risk taker, to have to build a team to serve somebody else, right? There's so much to all that. To me, if I'm going to try to teach people, the thing we learn in the business sector is, we typically start a business because we had a problem we needed to solve for ourselves, right? And we got passionate about that, and then we got passionate about saying, you know what, I fixed this problem for me. You probably have that problem too. And they're like, yeah, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Um, in higher education, this gets so complicated. I almost feel like you need to be in the middle of it in order to turn around and help solve the problem, right? As
Yep.
opposed to being out here and have a theoretical knowledge of what happens. When you're in it, and you're experiencing it, then you have a whole lot more context to deal with this.
Yeah.
This is just a very weird time, Brian. It's exciting, and like I said, it's exciting and terrifying all at the same breath. So
Yep.
learning it from an
Absolutely.
academic standpoint, learning it from a business standpoint, I think if you can, and learning it from a social standpoint, if you have the ability to immerse yourself in all of those, then I think you serve people far better than if you're simply making I don't know, an analysis from afar.
Agreed.
Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Absolutely. Um, One of the questions I always finish with is, what are some of the ways that you're using AI within your job, within your daily tasks, that are most effective or impactful for you?
Oh, yeah, great question. I'm in the middle of writing a book on this, and I say in the middle. I'm like 90% through until I realized, oh, I need to rewrite about 4 chapters. So I use AI to write a book on AI. How meta is that, right? This is what we do. We teach people how to do this stuff, but we have to do social media posts. We have to do blog posts. We have to do videos. We have to do what you're doing, podcasts. We have to edit those up. We use AI for all of that. We use AI for finding good reels and cropping it all up. We use AI to help us generate slide decks. There's so much. But writing the book has been the most fascinating because what I've had to do is in writing the book on how to do scalable prompt engineering, I actually had to train Claude how to do scalable prompt engineering. And so now I'm using Claude to help me accelerate the concepts of A, writing the book, and B, writing example prompts and testing those prompts. So very, very, it's my life. Sadly, I use it
Well,
every
that's
day.
fantastic. Um, Thank you so much for your time today, John. If people are interested in contacting you or following you, what's the best place for them to find you?
Oh, well, thanks. So our website is bazooka.com, Bizzuka. We're not the weapon or the bubble gum, but we still got potential. What I'd love to do, because your audience is higher ed, I've got about, theoretically, this book will be published in the next 3 to 6 weeks. It's called Ingrain, and it's called Strategy Through Execution: How to Build an AI First Culture in Your Organization. I'll give away, if you go to bazooka.com/ingrain and you say Brian Piper sent me, I will send you a free copy of the book when it comes out. I just want to serve your audience well. I love what you're passionate about, and I want to contribute and keep it moving forward.
Much appreciated, John. That'll be great. And I know I'll absolutely go out and get a copy of that. So
Excellent. Well, knock on wood, it'll get done soon.
fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming on, John. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
What a fantastic look at the importance of using the right prompt in order to get the best output. The idea of having these structured prompts and prompt libraries is critical for the integration of this technology in a way that doesn't further contribute to the silos that we so often encounter in higher education. And John's insights on how to present this technology to leadership in a way that will matter to them is critical when we're thinking of how to get our institution on board with this major change. And the only way to keep up with the speed of development of AI is through continuous learning and collaboration. Please reach out to me with unique ways that you're integrating and using AI. And as always, blue skies and keep creating. Thank you for listening to another episode of AI for You. I hope you found at least one useful thing you can take away and start adding to your workflows and processes today. Remember, the key to making the most of AI is to keep experimenting, keep learning, and of course, keep creating. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to become a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Artis Kadu, Day Kibbles, Shane Baglini, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.